I've had the Ooni Karu 12 for over 2 years. I've cooked hundreds of pizzas, and these are my 10 top tips. Tip number 1, decide what fuel you want to use. The Ooni Karu 12 is of course a dual fuel pizza oven, so you can choose to cook in wood or you can buy the gas attachment. So what are you going to be using? Well, it totally depends what you want out of the oven. Wood, for me, gives you that amazing, authentic flavor, but you have to bear in mind that it's quite fidgety. On the other hand, you can cook with gas, but it means that you need to buy a gas attachment, which of course is extra money. But the positive is that when the gas is on, it's on and it's going to heat up your oven. So to me, the decision is basically on who you're going to be cooking with. If you're cooking for a small amount of people and there is no pressure to get one pizza out after the other, wood is totally fine. If you're cooking for a large number of people where you need to be continuously outputting pizzas, then the gas attachment is probably the best option. Tip number 2, you've chosen to cook with wood, so what is the best way of doing it? For me, it's a combination of coal and fresh wood. Well, wood. The coal is used to keep a high base temperature, and then before putting your pizza in, a couple of minutes before, you put some wood, and that's gonna give you the flame and it's gonna allow you to cook the pizza perfectly. Tip number 3, instead you've chosen to cook with gas. Well done, it's my preferred option. With the gas, put it to max to make sure that the stone gets to temperature. But in my opinion, the best way of cooking the pizza is to slightly lower the flame so that you have a very hot stone, but the top doesn't get burnt. And then between one pizza and the next, you hike up the gas again, it's gonna bring the stone back to temperature, and you're ready for your next pizza. Tip number 4, and this is important, so listen up, is the stone temperature. Stone temperature is key to cooking a perfect pizza. So the stone needs to be to a very, very minimum 400 degrees Celsius, and you need to check it across the whole surface of the stone. And the best way of doing that is buying one of these infrared thermometers, which in my opinion is a must-have if you want to take your pizza cooking very seriously. Ideally, you want the pizza stone to be around 450. That's going to yield you an amazing crust at the bottom and allow you to cook the top in 2 minutes max, so it's pretty good. Tip number 5, and here we're beginning to be a little bit more technical. This is where practice makes perfect, and it's about launching the pizza and making sure that the base is not burnt. So let's take one step back. When you stretch the pizza, you need to stretch it on semola flour. That's going to make the bottom not stick to your peel and is going to allow you to launch the pizza into the oven very effectively. But what's the problem with that? Where do you need to be careful? Well, by not using too much semola, because the problem is that if you launch your pizza with too much semola still at the bottom, once the semola hits the stone, then it's going to start burning. And it's going to do fundamentally 2 things. It's going to create a really stinky burning smell, but also is going to burn the base of your pizza, making the pizza bitter and a little bit cancerogenic, which you totally do not want to do. So what you need to practice is having enough semola at the bottom of your peel to allow for a smooth launch, but not enough so that it get burned. And that's, my friends, unfortunately, is one of those things you gotta do, and you gotta do all the time until you get perfect. Tip number 6, and this is one of my favorites and one which I wish I'd known when I started my pizza journey, and it is how do I effectively clean the pizza stone? Because once you're done with cooking your pizzas, very often the stone will be dirty. You will have either spilled some of the tomato or your toppings, or generally burn some of the bottoms because of the problem with the semola we talked before. So how do you effectively clean it? And one of the worst things you can do is actually taking out and scrubbing it, because there's much easier way of doing it, which is just cleaning it next time you make your pizza. So next time you make a pizza, turn the stone so that the dirtiest part is closest to the fire. Start your oven, and you'll see that when the oven gets above 400 degrees Celsius, the stone is going to magically clean itself. So give it 5 minutes at that temperature, you will have a perfect stone for your pizza. Tip number 7, what peel do you want? Do you want a square peel? Do you want a turning peel? This is a big question, and my thinking is the following. The pizza oven, to start with, it's much easier with the square peel. It's going to allow you to launch it, and then it's an easier tool to use to start turning your pizza. But what's the problem is that you take the pizza out of the oven, you turn it with your hands, you tend to burn your hands a little bit sometimes, and then you put the pizza back in. So there is this change in temperature that occurs. While if you buy a turning peel, the turning peel does allow you to turn the pizza while the pizza is still in the oven, so the pizza is going to still continue cooking. And if you go to proper pizzerias, you'll see that they will probably launch it with a square one, but then they will turn it with a turning peel. So the tip here is to try buying a turning peel and practice with it until you get the hang of it. Tip number 8 is cleaning and maintenance. When it comes to cleaning, we already discussed what to do with the stone, but what do we do with the rest of the oven? Of course, there is a lot of soot that gets built up cook after cook, and what are you going to do with it? So my preferred method of cleaning the oven is to use a neutral soap, a little bit of water, and every few months clean the whole oven. And I would clean it the inside and I would clean it the outside. And here's where the important thing is. Make sure that you dry the oven very well after you're done cleaning, because you want to avoid any form of rusting that may form in the joints of the oven. So a good deep clean once a month, once every 2 months, depending on how often you use it, but do it and make sure everything is fully dried. Tip number 9, the weather. Most importantly, the cold weather. The Ooni does not have much of an insulation. It pretty much is just stainless steel. So when outside is very, very cold, you will see that you will actually struggle to bring it up to the temperature you need. And in those situations, I find that cooking with the gas is actually a lot easier to be able to maintain a higher temperature rather than fuffing about trying to find the right combination of coal and wood to be able to do that. But regardless, making pizza when it's very cold outside, it's not an easy feat. And tip number 10, the use of the chimney. In the chimney, you will see that you have a little lever thing that opens it and closes it. And the idea is that if it's fully open, then the maximum amount of oxygenation goes through and you have the highest heat. If you close it, the opposite. While technically you can open it and close it to adjust the temperature, I would suggest to always leave it fully open. At the end of the day, you always want the pizza oven to be as hot as possible, and trust me, it's never going to go higher than what you need to be, so might just as well keep it open all the time. So these are my top 10 tips, and they're those tips I use all the time when I make my pizza, and I really hope they can be useful to you. But as always, with these kind of things, practice makes perfect. So go get cooking pizza. Ciao.